And that is great, and we hope you get a chance to write in because we always love reading the letters. And right now we are going to turn to Father Seamus Finn, who is the Director of the Justice, Peace, and the Integrity of Creation for the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate and consultant to investing for Catholics. And first of all, thanks, Father, for being here today.
Sure, most welcome.
Could you tell us?
Listening to all those good rich I'm at home.
First of all, maybe if you could start off, Father, by telling us about your work and actually where you are now talking to us from.
Sure. I am sitting at the Oblate House on Via Aurelia in Rome, and where we just finished an investment committee meeting. I'm one of the consultants that works with the investments of the congregation to make sure that our investments are aligned with our mission and what it is we're doing. And we meet a couple of times a year, and so the meeting this year happened to be in Rome, so that's where I am.
Excellent.
Father Seamus Finn, now I have to let our viewers know that your brother is a priest of the Archdiocese of Boston, Father Dan Finn, pastor in Dorchester, so I hope he's watching to make sure that you do an excellent job, which I'm sure you will. But I have a question for you. There in Rome, now, as a missionary oblate of Mary Immaculate, back in June, you were interviewed on the PBS Nightly Business Report, I believe. Now, how did that come to be?
Well, I think it's the financial crisis and the near implosion of the global financial system in September of 2008 brought a lot of attention, media attention, and just conversation across the world because the crisis was that significant and potentially that harmful. And so we've been working in the financial services sector with banks probably for about 25 years, believe it or not. Primarily started out working with banks on issues around how they were handling the debt situation in Latin America, because we have a lot of missionaries in Latin America, and they would constantly ask us, you're choking the life out of our people down here by these loans that are made by banks, and they're not being monitored carefully, and they're not carefully looking at what the money is being used for. So, make a long story short, we've taken it upon ourselves as part of our mission to engage corporations because we think they're very powerful and very influential in terms of the impact of their activities and policies in the United States and around the world. And so I suppose in 2010, it was almost like a perfect storm. In many ways, as I said, we've been doing this kind of stuff for about 25 years, and even to get a mention on the radio or a line in a newspaper referring to our work was usually took a lot of effort, whereas in May and June of this year, we had lots of people calling us for newspaper interviews or magazines, so I think we probably had about 50 or 60 media hits at the time. PBS Nightly News and The Daily Show were two of those that we accepted.
Now, you mentioned it, and a lot of people are thinking about it, and it has been tough for a lot of people with the recession and all the economic turmoil in the world. But how do you think it's important, or what are ways, I guess, for people to think about when they make investments, especially nowadays, and get to consider their faith values when they're actually doing that, and take a look at where they're investing their money and how can that play in their faith lives?
Well, obviously, since I started doing this work, and since I, worked in a parish in Vermont, and I worked in Lowell, Massachusetts, for a good while before I moved down to Washington, the world has become, a much more complicated place, and things move very quickly. And I suppose we've gone, in a period of 30 or 40 years from folks who maybe were not very sophisticated about handling finances, and sometimes had a bank account or a checking account, and maybe had a credit card too. They've become the normal ways in which we do business. And investments in corporations, whether it's by individuals or by a parish or by a diocese or by a school, or many people are invested in the market because they're active participants in pension funds. whether it's a pension fund because they work for the government or the state or the city, or it's a pension fund that they're engaged in through their corporations. So that's a whole world in many ways that people were not that, they were familiar with, and I think they understood some of the mechanics of it. But that's become the information that's available to folks is a lot more easy to manage now. And I think it kind of, for me anyway, the core of the issue, I think, is that we're all called to be missionaries, and we're all in our vocation called to be faithful to the gospel and the teaching of the church. And so we shouldn't leave that vocation and that missionary call just inside of the church or when we're praying, but we need to try and integrate it into the way we live our lives every day. And the financial system, when you think about it, at least when I think about it, it's almost like the vascular system in your body. It extends across the world, fully integrated, and it's the way that we engage in commerce, and so it's very influential and has huge impact. So, is there a way? Then I think the question is there a way in which a Catholic can actually be mindful of their faith in the investments that they might themselves personally make, or that their parishes, as I said, or companies or pension funds make, so that they can be assured that, these investments are helping people. They're trying to do good, and they're not out there gouging people, taking advantage of slave labor or child labor or ruining the environment. And so I think that goes to at least for me, that people, by not bifurcating their life and prayer from what they're doing in the business world, they can have some inner peace, they can have some inner harmony, and therefore I think grow spiritually and grow closer to God.
Father Seamus, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. And just very quickly, the website where people can learn more about your work in faith-based investing?
Our website is, my office is probably the best one in Washington that you can get some of the information. It's www.omiusajpic.org. So omiusajpic is all one word.
Perfect.
And by looking at that or sending for information, we're more than happy to help folks to negotiate some of the ways, the tools, the information, the professionals that are out there to help them, if indeed this is something they see that they want to integrate into their lives.
Perfect, and we get that up on the screen. Seamus, thank you so much. I'll be sure to tell your brother Dan you said hello.
Yeah, please tell those folks I was up at Theology of Tap in Air, Massachusetts about a couple of weeks ago, so hopefully some people out in there are also looking at your show.
Great. Have a great rest of the day in Rome.
Okay, you too, guys. Take it easy.